And oftentimes, when the women in our lives may not understand why we react the way we react, right? It all stems back to us having emotional blockages, right? We don't cry because when we were crying as a little boy or as a maybe a young man or whatever the case may be, they told you to man up, stop crying. Men don't cry, stop all that crying, or we don't, it's just certain things that have shaped who we are and how we are, and it has created blockages in some areas. And in those areas, the women oftentimes who we love and the women who we are in relationships are the ones who end up kind of suffering or having to pay the brunt or deal with the brunt of that because we have set up walls, right, and been blocked, and we are blocked up in some of our emotions, and it stems again from some of the things that we have seen, right, in our childhood, whether it was because of the way our father or our grandfather or whoever it is raised us, right, caused us to be a certain way. So today I want to take that a step further. That's what we kind of talked about last week was emotional blockages, and I made the parallel or the connection with for you all that because of childhood trauma, because of childhood things, we've been or we are emotionally blocked. Well, I want to take that again, like I said, a step further on today, and so let us go ahead and look at it in this regard and look at it from this perspective. You know, childhood experiences childhood experiences form manly responses. All right. Childhood experiences form manly responses. I shared with you all on last week how when I was about 4 years old, or I was about 3 or 4 years old, someone was messing with my sister, and I think they had hurt my sister, or some uh, kid had messed with my sister, and my sister, mind you, is 2 years older than I am. But I saw that and I went and I started hitting the kid and I beat him up to where his nose blooded. And my mom, seeing the anger that developed in me, said, no, 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 I don't need that or want that to be a part of my child. So she spanked me, right, at the time and told me that I was not supposed to do that. Um, and so later on in life, as I got older, when my sister got into a fight, there's just for some reason I just knew. Again, I had forgotten about the whipping that happened when I was four for beating up, the other young man and bloodying his nose. I had forgotten about that, but somewhere in my psyche, right, somewhere in my mind, I knew that I was not supposed to step in, or I felt rather as if I should not step in and try to fight this person who was trying to fight my sister. Even in the case when my sister had to fight a young man by the name of Jeffrey, I chose not to step in. I chose not to fight for her in that moment, right? And I let her fight her own battles, right? But it was not until later on when my mom came back and she talked to me about that moment and she apologized for whipping me in that moment and said I should not have whipped you for that, or and if I or even I should have just had a better discussion with you about what happened and why I whipped you, not for fighting for your sister, but because of the amount of anger that you had and how you bloodied the boy's nose, right? So our childhood responses, our childhood experiences help to form manly responses. And there have been so many men. I've kind of been dealing with this each and every episode, but I think that today I want to just kind of deal with this head on and length on. There are so many things that have happened to the men, right, as boys, that now because of these things, right? Because of these things, they've become calloused, right? They've become, anytime. Here's the thing about it: anytime you have a open sore or an open wound, right? The more that if you leave it alone, of course, it builds a scab on it, and I recognize this from when I was a child. But when you leave it alone, it builds a scab on it, and that's new skin beginning to form. And then if you continue to leave that alone, then the skin can grow and cover and heal just fine. Well, the more you pick at it, the more, right? And every time it grows, it leaves a mark, right? And then it becomes a visible reminder, becomes a visible um, scar, all right, or a visible indication, whatever you want to call it, right? It's a visible reminder of what happened in that moment, right? What happened at that period in time, and I think many of us have physical reminders on our persons or upon ourselves of certain events and things. I know my mom has a little spot on her leg, and she can tell you exactly what happened. She was doing something, and she went and bumped into the radiator, and it burned her leg up pretty good. And that is a visible reminder of that. I have a spot here on my arm where I have a visible reminder of when I was, in the fourth or fifth grade. I was in the fifth grade, and I remember there was a young man by the name of Skylar Webb, and I was talking about Skylar Webb's mom so bad. Right, I'm being honest. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just being honest. I remember I was talking about her so bad. I was, yeah. And Skylar got so agitated and so upset that he stabbed me in the arm with a pencil. Right, I have these visible reminders, and that help to set a precedence or a place in my life where I said, okay, I need to know when too far or when far enough is good, or when I've went too far, because I could see the signs. I remember when I was dealing with Skylar Webb. I remember seeing the signs that I had hurt him well enough, but I did not stop at that sign of well enough, and I kept on pushing until I had went too far. And then when I got too far, it was already too late because he had already stabbed the pencil into my arm. So what am I saying? I'm saying that for many men out there, we have had childhood experiences, whether good or bad. We've either seen our father in the home and the way he loved our mother and treated our mother, whether good and or bad, and it has helped to form a manly response, so that now when we get into relationships, now when we deal with other men, now when we deal with women, this is how we respond. Childhood experiences form, develop, and make or build manly responses. So here is my challenge. Here is my challenge for all of us men. First, let's begin to deal with the challenges and the issues, and let's go back and rethink about some of those childhood experiences, the childhood experience of why it is that you treat women the way that you treat them. Who in your life, where in your life did you pick up the idea or the notion that a woman should be handled and treated this way? Where did you pick that up? We've got to go back and visit childhood experiences. Then I want you to go back and even begin to see, okay, where did I develop this mindset that other brothers, that other men should be handled or treated this way? And we've got to begin to relive some of those childhood experiences, revisit, not relive. Let me correct that. Revisit these childhood experiences, so that if there is a necessary course correction, all right, if there is a course correction that is necessary in that area, we can understand we have to begin to understand where this thing came from, where this thing was developed, and then we can go and reroute and recorrect, right? When we look at different, when I've studied, those who program and who do different things, and even a builder, when he builds, what he does, right, is he makes sure first that the foundation is laid right, right. Then he'll put the support structures in place, and that's part of all of that. So you have your foundation, your support structures, then you can start framing and building and doing all these other things, right? Now, if something begins to go wrong and he sees, all right, that there is a problem, what he'll begin to do is trace backwards, right? Even in programming, when you see that something is wrong and it's not going right, you have to go back, right, and trace your steps and find the place where it went wrong, where you first the problem first was, then you can correct that area, and then once you make that correction, then everything ought to flow smoothly. All right. Now, what am I saying? As men, that's what we have to begin to do. We have to begin to make the necessary corrections. We have to begin to make the necessary changes so that we can begin to have better relationships with the women that are in our lives, relationships with the men who we call friends and brothers, and better relationships with our sons and our daughters. And we have to begin to understand, where did this breakdown of communication come from? Where did this breakdown of showing emotion and dealing with people, where did this come from? Where did I pick this up at? And then we can make the necessary corrections, because and let me challenge, now that I've challenged the men to do that, let me then challenge the women who may be raising sons on your own. Make sure that as you are raising your sons, and I know some of your sons are already grown, they've graduated from college, they're out in the world, but make sure understand now. Some things was the simple fact that my mom had that conversation with me, as I stated earlier, about why she whipped me when I fought for my sister at the age of 3, and why she decided to spank me in that moment, right? So now that I understand that, I say, oh, okay. And I was an adult when we had this conversation, so now I'm able to make the necessary corrections in my mind. Okay, it wasn't about what I did, it was about the way that I did it, or the end result in me doing it. I need to be able to still fight for my sister without bloodying up somebody's nose and allowing the anger to, all right, I got it now. I got it now. You see? So you have to, ladies, if you are raising sons, right? Don't make sure that they don't have any emotional blockages due to childhood experiences that you can control. All right. If you can control the experiences that your son has, then by all means, do so and give him positive experiences so that he can become a well rounded, all right, fully developed male, and able to handle conversations and cope, and to be able to have positive, good male friendships. And as fathers, men, as fathers, I've got to encourage you, if you're not in your son's life, you need to make some course corrections there and say, well, what is it that led me to a place to where I didn't feel like I needed to be a part of my child's life? And it doesn't matter if it's a son or a daughter. What is it that happened that caused me to think that this was okay? Was it because my father was never there? Well, that's not necessarily okay. I want to, and we're going to spend the entire month of June, right? I know we celebrate Father's Day in June, but the entire month of June is dedicated to the fathers, and fathers being present in the home, and the effects of a father, and even if he's not present in the home, but the effects of a father in a person's life. And I'm going to share some stories with you. I'm going to play some clips, and I'm going to talk with different folks, and you're going to hear the effects that it had on them having a father present in their life. Even if he wasn't present in the home because he and the mother weren't together, there's still some effects from him being present in their life. So that's what we'll talk about during the month of June. But I want to close out today by saying we've got to be sure, men, that we do our due diligence of looking at our lives, examining our childhood experiences and how they've helped to form, either negatively or positively, our manly responses. All right? All right.